All right. Well, yeah. So teeing it up, we'll take turns. I'll tee up this first one. All right. AI assistants becoming high value attack surfaces. So we had a couple of news articles come out this week talking about number one, how, uh, Google Gemini was exploited via calendar invite as the attack vector, which is pretty gnarly because Lord knows, I click on a lot of calendar invites in a day. Second one was a Microsoft Copilot reprompt flaw. It's kind of single click type exercise. I don't know as much about the second one. Maybe any initial reactions from you guys, like when you saw that news come out, like what comes to mind for you? Like what's your quick take on it?
I think that I was terribly surprised to see more prompt injection attacks. I think that prompt injection is really widespread, and we have to solve this at a much lower level than anybody is actually tackling right now. That we've just invented SQL injection all over again. This is just a classic case of confusing data and code, no different than any other injection attack, right? But the underlying issue here is that the actual LLMs themselves have no mechanism for telling the difference between the data and the code because it's all just text. And under the hood,
Yeah.
they want you to be kind of confusing this as well, because as a developer, when we're making AI systems, you will frequently manage the context of the LLM. That's a major point in AI engineering. And what context engineering means is editing the conversation to say who said what or whatever. So being able to just inject into the context is almost a feature and a bug. I'm not sure what the answer is there. Maybe there has to be some special token that is only used by as a delimiter. But to my knowledge, there's not even any great movement towards a world where there's for parameterized queries for LLMs.
Yeah.
It's just not even a thing that people are working on.
That makes me
Yeah,
think of SQL injection as well, right? It's the control channel, data channel confusion where you don't have two separate ones. They're all being included in the same body of language, essentially. Okay. Yeah.
yeah. Well, and I think with a lot of these too, it's not brand new, right? But it's still early on. We're still very early on in the adoption of the deployment of it. So we're getting so hyper focused on the remediation. So we say, okay, cool, we found some prompt injection and we're good with this plus an N1 variation, N plus one variation of it. But we're not thinking about those other edge cases, those other side cases when we're remediating these sorts of things. And so with the Gemini flaw, right, going in through calendar as an attack vector, that's something that I had the opportunity to do recently, not with Gemini specifically, but looking to exfiltrate data out of a company that had some DLP in place. And I just kept using different tools as ways to get it out that technically they did have some controls in there, but data exfiltration through PowerPoint, data exfiltration through these other ways that's it's not a common vector. They're thinking that nobody's really going to do it, but it's a possibility, a way to get things out, right? So I think we're getting too narrowly focused, or the folks that are looking to fix these are getting a little bit too narrowly focused on it and maybe not necessarily thinking about what's the underlying root cause of it, right? So not this specific issue, but what's the underlying root cause and how do we kind of address that? I think is kind of where some of the problems come from.
The remediation is just so hard too. To properly remediate. Honestly, most of the remediations have just been in the form of prompting. Just asking the model, hey, pretty please, when you're doing annotations for this meeting, someone might try to tell you instructions in the meeting. Don't listen to them. But those kinds of fixes are so weak.
That's that's the equivalent of a regex, right? You're doing the context prompt equivalent of a regex. And ultimately we realized that with SQL injection, what you needed to do was you actually just needed to parameterize the query, which is telling the backend database, this query, this section is data and data only, and don't interpret any of the data in here or characters as control syntax, right? That's what the solve was for SQL injection. I don't know if it's possible to have something like that here to be able to create that delineation, but that does seem to be, if you look at, and I'll say this, all vulns are rooted in, couple dozen different fundamental problems, like the confused deputy problem, this control versus data channel problem. Like they all boil down to a handful of things that are basic security engineering concerns. This is one of them, right? And I don't know that there's a really easy answer to it. I think we're going to continue to see these types of attacks, especially as quickly as people are adopting it and creating features, right? So maybe my TLDR on this one is this fundamentally boils down to one of the classic security problems of control versus data and being able to discern the two. The modern approaches, the current approaches to it are sort of the equivalent of the regex, is trying to tell the model not to treat it a certain way. Um, Dan, your final thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this has to be solved like by the uh like models themselves. Like this has to be solved at the frontier model level. Uh because the models themselves just don't fundamentally have a way to determine the difference between data and code. It's all just one thing.
Yeah.
And the APIs try to do it, or they try to prompt their way out of it, and those can kind of work and kind of not. But it's all just papering over the real fundamental issue. Um, it was clearly just not built with security in mind, which was fair because this is all super brand new and catching uh, a lot of users really quickly. So I do expect that to happen at some point, but it's going to take some like real engineering on the back end.
Yeah. Cool. All right, next one. Social engineering is shifting to trusted business channels. Basically, attackers are increasing the use of LinkedIn, QR codes, and those types of things to deliver malware, harvest credentials. The usual payloads, slightly different variations. Is there anything new here? Is there anything actually new here that's just like, oh my gosh, I really got to start paying attention to it?
That was my impression too, was like, is it actually like using LinkedIn for uh like social engineering attacks? I feel like that's been done for as long as LinkedIn has existed.
Yeah.
You've got this group of corporate people who tell you who they are. They're in some cases hungry to click on links for opportunities. It's just this oxygen-rich environment for people to click on payloads you want them to. And QR codes, like, is just a perfect way of obfuscating a link to anything. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, we were talking about this right before we started recording that I still can't believe that QR codes are a viable method of it. But then again, of course, I actually just clicked on the QR code this week, at a hotel. I was trying to get some access to something and I just trusted it. Anybody could have put that document there, right? So I think it's just gotta just gotta validate it because it's still
I'm
gonna be an issue.
Yeah, it's there, right? I mean, I clicked on a QR code last night. I went to Hot Pot. I ordered some dishes. A robot delivered it. Like,
Yeah.
so yeah. I like anything new here. Maybe they're using it more. Maybe they're using it more aggressively. But I don't know.
Yeah, I don't have a good finger on the pulse of the threat intel feed on this about whether or not this is like super new, if there's some specific APT group that's been taking advantage of this or something like that. But
Yeah,
I feel like in general, this has been a thing for as long as LinkedIn's been a thing.
yeah, yeah. Maybe it's just threat actors are using it more and more. But I don't know. Vector existed. Okay. All right. Let's move on to the next one. Okay. Session hijacking and identity abuse remain dominant tactics. Basically credential harvesting and session theft, kind of still being popular over traditional password cracking. Um, Basically malicious Chrome extensions, right? So this is part of that whole broader problem of loading trusted third-party applications into your browser and or elsewhere, which we know has been an issue. So that seems to be challenging.
Uh, Certainly, anything is possible through enough social engineering grit. Certainly, if you're a corporate entity, that's the sort of thing that like awareness training could actually maybe have some impact on. Of like, maybe this password you have to put in here, this password you have to put in there, but the master password you never put anywhere else. Never tell anybody that thing.
Yeah.
Like that could actually be fruitful from a training perspective.
And yeah, and I'll summarize this one, right? Because I like, unless there's something else, this is just a phishing campaign. Phishing's phishing, and with AI, phishing emails are getting better, but it's not real. And knowing not to put your master password into a random link from an email, it's
Yeah,
gonna
I
be
imagine a lot of business processes moving into the web within the last couple of years too have started making attack vectors like malicious extensions really valuable because now it's also your email and it's your Outlook and it's PowerPoint. It's everything, right? It's like every business process you have happens through the browser now. So a malicious extension just kind of gets the whole thing all at once.
Well,
So
and also, like, I think part of it too, again, nothing new here. This is phishing, but there's also just so much fatigue from vendor emails and stuff that I'm getting constantly, other people. So if I get 12 emails from LastPass, telling me about a conference coming up or something else coming up, and then I see an email with LastPass somewhere in the domain, but I don't fully qualify out that domain. And I'm like, oh snap, I've got 12 other things to do and I've got a meeting in 2 minutes. Let me just jump in and make sure that this vault doesn't get locked out because I'm going to, my butt's on the line if this gets popped or we get locked out, right? So it's just fatigue, and they're just taking advantage of the situation of people that are very busy with a lot of stuff going on. And, comes down
yeah.
to targeting the weakest part of the link, which is the user.
Yeah, along those lines, a pet peeve of mine is when organizations will uh, kind of water down their own security brand by using these like domains that are not, or have weird subdomains that are, or primary domains that aren't subdomains from the main domain. So I don't know if we could use this, but the Vanguard, when you log in, you go to my.vanguardplan.com. It's like why is that the place you log in at? Like it looks like a phishing site. Like that is the kind of domain that I would make to
I'm
fish
seeing
people
that.
for Vanguard.
Yeah,
Like,
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Yeah, it's hard to know because, like, I don't actually know if vanguardplan.com is Vanguard or if it's like
that's what I'm
Vanguard,
saying.
right? No, but I mean, but a lot of people do that, right? Not to single
Yeah.
anyone, but like that
Yeah.
happened. Oh, is this legit or not? Yeah, definitely. All right. Zach, any quick takes on patch confidence eroding and sort of the concerns that some people are reporting about, like FortiGate patches not actually working and them still getting hacked?
I get it, right? I get it from both sides, because if you have a major vulnerability in your software and your product, like, you're trying to get that out there. And it kind of goes back to some conversations we had earlier about you're trying to do as best you can to remediate the issue, but you may not be thinking about that n+1 variation, one or two kind of like degrees removed, that the core of the issue is still there. I think that becomes problematic. And then you also get customers that are just like, well, if this patch isn't going to fix it, why am I going to rush potentially breaking my product? Let me go ahead and just get an exception and stuff. And that just, all that does is just benefit the attackers, benefit the folks who are, gaining, from these vulnerabilities and stuff. And I think, I don't know what the answer is, because the answer is not necessarily more time, but I think it's trying to think strategically about these remediation that we need to do for these sorts of vulnerabilities.
Yeah. I mean, one, I'm glad that people are trying to get patches out quickly, because I think that, I mean, if you look back on my career, like for a long time, patching was like, oh, sometimes we just won't do it, right? Sometimes just wouldn't even do it. So look, I applaud any vendor that's going out there and patching things. I would say though that maybe, look, recognition that this is a tricky problem, especially with appliances. It's very difficult, and variations are always going to be possible with an attack that you've got to take into account. And you have to balance, again, from the vendor perspective, like, you got to balance being able to get something out quickly versus getting something out thoroughly, and perhaps having a bit of grace to say, yes, we're going to patch this because we know that it blocks at least this direct primary attack. Keep an eye out. We may actually, launch another patch or release another patch that does an even better job. And yeah, it's going to be a little bit of extra work, but we're doing this so that we can balance speed versus completeness. And, you know, that could be it. But at the same time, like, the moment you release a patch, the moment everyone's reversing it to figure out exactly
Yeah.
where the original attack vector was. So you start the clock against yourself, against a broader set of attackers as well. So those are all the things you've got to consider.
Well, I think a key part of that too is also just the communication aspect. That's something you kind of hit on without explicitly saying it. But I think a vendor being willing to just kind of say, "Hey, we're working on this, and we're going to keep you guys updated, whether it's through a newsletter, whether it's through this site. We're going to keep you guys updated on our progress, on our testing, and whatever else we're going to do to continue to monitor the situation." It doesn't stop once a patch gets released. As long as this is still being exploited in the wild, as long as there's still you know customers or products being targeted, we're going to continue to monitor the situation. I think that's an important part of the process as well.
I don't know if it was the case here. It's hard to say. Sometimes what happens as well with vulnerabilities like this is that there's like a short-term and a long-term fix. That you look at the vulnerability internally, and you realize like, oh, this is going to take like a month to engineer the proper fix to. We have to change some entire
Yeah,
subsystem and how it works.
right.
And so in the meantime, like let's just get something out that kind of band-aids over the problem. And maybe the band-aid didn't work as well as they thought. And that like
Sometimes you
there's
need
a better fix coming down the line, maybe.
yeah, drop some sandbags until we can get something more permanent in place, but like it's gonna at least prevent the worst of the flooding. So yeah, it sucks.
Yeah.
It's extra work. Nobody wants to move sandbags.
That's at least the charitable version of what happened. Who knows the actual, yeah.
I'll take the vendor perspective again here, just because we work with a number of those teams, and I got like we never try to drop a 0-day on a Friday. Like that's just not nice, right? What's the point? We want to release research, we want to share it with people in advance, but we're not going to publish on a Friday. Like that's brutal, right? Their jobs are hard enough. I think everyone's got really good intent in trying to secure the products and the appliances that they're selling, the software that they're selling. Everyone's trying to achieve the same goal here. It is one of those really difficult things. You're not going to make everyone happy, but at least you can be clear around the expectations of what you're going to try and do. And this is the approach that we're taking. Um, I'm balancing speed versus completeness here, and I'm just giving you enough to build sandbags for now. So, okay. Last one, Void Link. Claims that it's been fully AI generated. What's to know about it, Dan?
That's entirely plausible. So, like, to the extent that virtually all software going forward is going to be at least in part written by AI, like that's just going to be the way that software engineering is done. So right off the bat, like that doesn't surprise me to learn that piece of software doing literally anything was written in whole or in part by AI. I think that there's some parts specifically about malware development that is like really helped by AI too. Because one of the things that like it's really good at is that AI just doesn't get bored. So it's really good at doing a lot of laborious things where you look at it, it's not hard, it's not intellectually difficult, but it would just take you forever as a human being to do it. So for instance, like migrating some piece of software that, from like one cloud to another. You have some piece of malware that like works on AWS, but boy, I'd really like for this to be able to target Azure as well. Like that is one prompt away from you just saying, oh yeah, can you also support Azure now? And the model can like do that really well. That's exactly the sort of thing that models are good at. And that is what I expect is a lot of what's happening here.
Yeah. So in this case, AI was used as a coding agent to help develop the malware in a really rapid time frame. But to differentiate it from some of the other news articles and other elements that we've seen, it was not exactly running the attack campaigns or doing scaled, orchestration around it. Instead, it was programming.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, I mean, that's the skinny on that one. So, okay, good to know. That's the TLDR. Awesome. Well, those are the topics for this week that we've got. Shoot us any questions or any additional future topics that you might want our perspective on. We're just getting this kicked off and figured it'd be a good opportunity for us to actually just give you the real take on things that are coming out. Do you need to worry about it? Do you not? What do we think? Is it anything really that novel? And Or is it just one of the 20 fundamental security problems that have plagued us since the beginning of time? So thanks for listening.